of all of our state parties. The goal was to create a nationwide training program. A year later, these trainings, as I mentioned earlier, have already benefited more than 1,000 staff and volunteers, with more to come in 2014 and beyond. And this includes weekly webinars like this one, access to a library of best practices, regional trainings to link state parties with one another, and data and technology trainings that ensure that all staff on the ground have the know-how to use the tools that we provide. And we're going to take all the lessons that the ASDC has learned and use their best practices to target women voters. Now, I want to take a point of personal privilege here. I've got to give special thanks to Janae, who has guided us through developing our first webinar, and to Amy, who's leading our discussion today. They are both part of the incredible DWA staff working group, an integral part of the Democratic Women's Alliance, and have been incredible examples of women shining bright in our party. Second, during the DNC meeting, we introduced Project Ivy, the next generation of our data and technology infrastructure. Project Ivy is the central hub of innovation for the Democratic Party in 2014 and beyond. The Obama campaign and the DNC's technological investments and innovations of 2008 and 2012 set the gold standard for modern data-driven campaigns. But those advancements didn't happen in a vacuum, and they didn't disappear in November 2012. They happened on top of the work the DNC has done for a decade. They happened because the technologies we invested in, that we built, and that we integrated reflect our core democratic values, that we're better with more inclusion and more participation. Going forward, this technology and data will be available to our state parties, to our friends at the other Democratic Party committees, and to individual campaigns. And by working through the state parties, municipal candidates can gain access to Vote Builder, which contains a wealth of information on the electorate. This technology advantage allows us to connect with more people and make sure more voices are heard in our democracy, especially women. Our data gives us the ability to not only target individuals, but everyone from the single mother to households where women are the breadwinners, so that we fine-tune our messaging and increase the chance that women turn out on Election Day. Third, we announced the creation of the DNC Voter Expansion Project. It's no longer about just playing defense. We are going on offense. We're going to go beyond simply protecting the right to vote to being the leader in expanding the vote. Voter protection has always been a key mission of the Democratic Party, and we've done excellent work through our Voting Rights Institute. But today's DNC is thinking about voting in an entirely different way. Through this program, the DNC will register voters, ensure every registered voter can vote, and that every vote is counted. To expand the vote, we'll work with state parties to enhance voter registration efforts and change the landscape of the next election by continuing to expand the map. We'll promote a National Voters' Bill of Rights and work with states to improve the voting experience for everyone. As President Obama has said, no one should have to wait hours in line just to be a part of democracy. To protect the vote, we'll break down barriers, we'll demystify the process, and we'll make sure that every vote counts. We know that Republicans are trying to make it harder, not easier, for people to vote, and these laws aren't isolated to one region or intended to harm one group of people. These laws hurt everyone. We know they do end up, we know who they are most likely to end up hurting. That's the people that are most likely to go to the polls and vote for our candidates. But these laws disproportionately hurt women. Women, because we're more likely than men to not have IDs with our current name if we're married or divorced, and it also makes it harder for working women to vote at a time that is convenient for them and their family. And finally, we also formally launched our Factivists program, a new rapid response operation that will engage our grassroots supporters to hold Republicans accountable and defend the Democratic brand. Whether it's defining the national Republican brand or working with state party communications teams at the local level to define their GOP candidates, the DNC will hold them responsible for their actions. The moment we see one of the 2012 style of accusations see the light of day, we will be on it. Women will know where Republicans stand on the issues important to women all across the country. And women will know that they are at the core of the Democratic Party and key to our future as a country. As the President said in his State of the Union address in January, when women succeed, America succeeds. So in line with each of these four pillars, I launched a comprehensive program, the Democratic Women's Alliance, last October, to specifically focus on growing and engaging the number of women involved in the Democratic Party at all levels. Over the last several decades, American women saw the challenges their mothers and grandmothers faced and said we deserve better. We have stood on some very strong shoulders and made great strides that took perseverance, bravery, and women standing up for ourselves. Most recently, we stood up and demanded the Violence Against Women Act be reauthorized. We stood up and demanded that our gender not be considered a pre-existing condition. And we continue to stand up and fight for equal pay for equal work. But we also know that if our voices don't remain strong and vigilant, we will be drowned out. And we'll see more legislation requiring women to have an ultrasound before having an abortion. We'll see more restrictions to accessing contraception and ultimately a woman's ability to make her own health care decisions. We'll see new definitions for rape. Or we'll see people ignore the fact that women still only earn 77 cents to every dollar a man earns. We'll see senators like Mike Lee out there saying those who support abortion rights favor a, quote, culture of death. That's a quote from yesterday at the Susan B. Anthony List event. We can't continue to let this happen, which is why working hard inside the Democratic Party structure to mobilize, engage, and develop skills through training is so important. And I'm committed to ensuring that women's values are made clear between each election and DNC meeting. Because it isn't that our voices will only matter in 2014 or 2016, it's that our voices, women's voices, always matter. So thank you so much again for joining us today. I want to turn it over to Kate, who's going to talk a little bit about DWA programming. They have just called votes in the House, so I may not be able to stay on for the Q&A portion, but Kate is, and our team here at the DNC of incredible women leaders are up to speed and will be able to answer questions if I have to jump off. Thank you all so much. I'm very excited about this. Look forward to working with all of you.
Hi, it's so good to be with all of you today. Again, my name is Kate Houghton. I'm one of the staffers on the Democratic Women's Alliance working group here at the DNC. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the mission and vision and the deliverables that we have coming out of the DNC headquarters here in Washington for everybody on this call and our state parties and through our national partners. So our overall mission is to engage a number of women who are involved in the Democratic Party. And this is based off of the creation of the Democratic Women's Alliance in October of 2013 by our chair, who we just heard from, to grow and engage the number of women overall. Our goal is to empower and engage more Democratic women to mobilize and train each other and continue the conversation between each election and between each DNC meeting, WLF meeting, ASDC meeting, and all the other things we do throughout the year. Our alliance partners are a pretty comprehensive group of women who are already doing great work inside our party structure, from the Association of State Democratic Chairs who are hosting us today, to our DNC Women's Caucus and our officers. We're engaging our Women's Leadership Forum, and I know we have a good presence on this call today. The National Federation of Democratic Women are also being engaged, and the Ohio Democratic Party is going to talk about them specifically in their presentation. And then we have our DNC staff working group, who I'm sitting at a table with right now, and it's great to be on the front lines with them. And then our Democratic ally groups, who we're going to be bringing in on the webinars throughout the year to help train us and share some of the great work that they're doing. So in 2014, we're focusing on 3 deliverables for the Alliance and all the partners on this call. The first thing we're going to do is continue these webinars monthly. We'll be starting them starting next month, and we'll have some great themes. So when you fill out the survey after this call, please let us know the kinds of things you want to hear about, because we are going to do all this with your feedback. We're going to engage the next generation of women leaders by developing a young professional network here in DC that helps make sure that our staff who are working on the ground here have the tools they need to be the best and the brightest at their jobs and rise up the ranks so that they can one day be chiefs of staff and executive directors of our campaign committees. And then we're going to also make sure that we are training and speaking and talking to each other through our newsletter. And that will be our primary tool for making sure that everybody has the knowledge that they need to go out and do the good work that you all are continuing to do. So that's pretty much an overview of everything we've got going on, and I'll turn it back to, actually we're going to do some Q&A, because we have a few minutes.
Yeah, so again, this is Amy from the ASDC, and if anyone has questions for either our chair or for Kate, please enter them in the questions box, and we'll take a few before handing it over to the Ohio Democratic Women's Caucus. Okay, we have a comment to share the email list of the names and contact of the DNC staff working group. We can definitely work on having contact information for those people, and everyone who's speaking on this call, we can send you guys our information.
We're also going to we're going to develop a listserv, so we will make sure that we reach out to the folks on this webinar and include you in that listserv when we get it organized.
And so the next question is, will the monthly newsletter be mailed?
Hi, Laura. I see your question on there about the newsletter. We're actually going to do it electronically so that we're able to get to everybody across the country in one fell swoop. So if you'll make sure that after this survey you fill out, that you include your email address, we will make sure we get it over to you.
So the next question is from Carrie Lorenzo, asking how we can do a better job of making sure we're refuting some of the most ridiculous and outrageous attacks we see from the GOP. And are we going to develop a rapid grassroots response team?
Yes.
So
let me jump in because I'm going to rapidly run out of time here. That's what our Factivists program is all about. So we encourage you to go on the DNC website, which is democrats.org, and you can sign up to be a Factivist. And you will be armed with talking points and information that will help you push back against GOP attacks and lies. And it's modeled after the successful Obama campaign truth teams. And so we are definitely focused on rapid response. And what we feel, we have a great rapid response effort here at the headquarters, but we want to make sure that we can push that rapid response all the way down to the local level. So make sure you sign up for that program.
Hi, Nancy. We see your question about inviting people to the Democratic Women's Alliance monthly webinars. This is definitely for everybody. All the women that you know are working actively in your community. The more the better is kind of our mentality on this. So whenever you get the announcements about these monthly webinars, please feel free to forward them around to women in your community who are doing good work and want to continue doing better.
And hi, Nancy. Great question. Not surprised it came from you.
And so from Francis Pepper, we will have this PowerPoint. The ASDC keeps all of the webinars, recordings, and the PowerPoints on our legacy files online. But you're welcome to reach out to your contact, whether you came from WLF or National Federation of Women. Reach out to the contact that emailed you, and they can certainly get this PowerPoint to you if you're interested in having that and you don't have access to the ASDC legacy files.
Linda just asked how women in smaller communities can be involved without having to travel hours to a bigger city event. The Democratic Women's Alliance is actually not an event-driven effort. It is an outreach and grassroots effort where we're going to be able to use online tools like this one. We've connected with almost 200 women with this webinar, and that's women activists, all of whom have networks in your own right, and will hopefully take this information and get even more women engaged. So even if you're from a small community, you'll be able to use our newsletter that will be sent out by the DWA. You'll be able to get engaged and recruit young women to our Young Women's Leadership Network. You'll be able to participate in these webinars, and then we're going to build off of this plan so that we can make sure that we really grow this program And like I said, my ultimate goal is to ensure that we have a women's caucus in every state party, that we are able to fully engage women across all of our alliance partners.
Hi, Katie. Good to see your question up there from Dems Abroad. You can definitely feel free to share the information that we have in the newsletter with your networks overseas and around the world. That is one of the reasons we've got the newsletter, is to make sure we're communicating about women's events all across the country and internationally. So the chair's got to leave for votes. I'm going to turn it back to Amy so that she can kick off the Ohio Democratic Party section.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us, and on to many more Democratic victories powered by women. Take care. Thanks.
All right, everyone. So we are going to go ahead and turn it over to our case study. We have some great women. Liz Walters, the Executive Director of the Ohio Democratic Party, as well as Jenna Craig, who is the Executive Director of the Ohio Democratic Party Women's Caucus, and then also Janet Carson, a Vice Chair of the Women's Caucus in Ohio. So I am going to go ahead and turn it all over to them.
Great. Thank you so much, Amy. Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Walters, and I am the Executive Director of the Ohio Democratic Party. I am joined here by Jenna and Jenna and Janet. I'll let them both say hello so you get to know their voices. This is Jenna Craig, the Director of the Women's Caucus.
Hi, this is Janet Carson, the Vice Chair in charge of candidate development and recruitment.
Great. Thanks, Janet. So we just want to, real quick, to start off, say thank you. Kathy DeCristofaro, who is our chairwoman, unfortunately had a last-minute work conflict come up. She works in the public school system, so was not able to join us this afternoon. We want to say thanks to Janet for jumping on to pinch hit for us. And also want to thank Amy, Jonay, and Kate, and of course Chairwoman Wasserman Schultz for inviting us. We're very excited to share this. We're very proud of the work we've done in Ohio to build a strong caucus, and we're really excited to kind of evangelize about it for a bit. And I also just want to say a special thanks to our chairman, Chris Redfern, who's the state party chairman. He's been a great supporter of the caucus from its inception, and we're just really grateful to have his leadership helping us push this along and being such a great partner on that front. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to Jenna and Janet. Jenna is the 4th executive director of the caucus we've had. We're really lucky to have her. And we're also really lucky to have Janet, who's been with the caucus since its inception between 2004 and 2006. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Janet, to get us started.
Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone for allowing the Ohio Democratic Women's Caucus to be a part of this webinar today. And on behalf of our ODWC Chair, Kathy DeCristofaro, I'd like to thank you all for participating with us. So for now, I'm going to turn it over to Jenna. She can start with slide 2 on our program.
Thanks so much again. I just want to give you a little bit of background about the Women's Caucus. This first slide really just outlines our mission statement. The ODWC, the Ohio Democratic Women's Caucus, is of course a grassroots organization that works in full partnership with the Ohio Democratic Party. Our mission is to motivate, educate, empower, and energize Democratic women by recruiting them to run for office, increasing their leadership roles within Democratic politics, and organizing women to elect Democrats at the local, state, and national level. In order to elect more women to office, we build and maintain a strong networking infrastructure of support for Democratic women in the following ways. First, we advocate for equitable representation and funding of Democratic women as it relates to candidate recruitment, senior positions with ODP, appointments to serve on boards and commissions within all levels of government. Secondly, we develop informal programs, education, training, workshops on all issues that are important to women. Our executive director of the caucus, my role is to create, and also in conjunction with the leadership of the caucus, to facilitate statewide and regional networking opportunities in a variety of ways and through a variety of channels. We also promote and feature political community and grassroots leaders by creating an annual list of Democratic women and elected officials, attorneys, business owners, and group leaders. We also mobilize and take action on issues that impact women. For example, equality, economic justice, women's health, reproductive rights, education, diversity, and of course voters' rights.
Since the original planning meeting in 2004, ODWC has been able to grow, build, and capitalize on the strength of women and the power of she. In 2004, a small group of women activists recognized a need for a coalition of women around the state, and the idea for ODWC was born. In 2006, with the support of the Ohio Democratic Party, we hired our first full-time director for ODWC and had our first annual luncheon. This was a fundraiser to help pay for the director's salary. In 2008, we held our first statewide convention, and we had our first training with Emily's List. In 2010, ODWC held its first ever Women's Lobby Day and first regional volunteer and candidate training workshops. Regional workshops allowed us to train caucus leaders to take best practices to their grassroots volunteers. And in 2012, ODWC motivated women to activism in unprecedented levels, increasing membership, and we now have caucus chapters in 44 of Ohio's 88 counties. And just this year, we've conducted our first ever research on women voters in Ohio. This has been very, very helpful for our candidates. We view the ODWC as the big tent convener and connector of Democratic women around the state of Ohio. On this slide, we show that ODWC serves as the umbrella organizer for collaborating with county parties and women's Democratic clubs, other caucuses like the Ohio LGBT Caucus and the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, partner groups like NARAL, Pro-Choice, Planned Parenthood, Emily's List, the YMCA, and many others. We also collaborate with the Federated Democratic Women, the Young Dems, the College Dems, and allied groups around our state. It is through this collaboration that we're able to move the agenda forward.
Just to sort of emphasize that rather than replacing any of these organizations, we see ourselves really as the umbrella organizer or the umbrella group that helps to connect them all together. The Women's Caucus is successful because we're active 12 months out of the year. We're engaged and active all year round and really lead by example. ODWC also annually honors a great leader at the Ohio Democratic Party's annual dinner. From election to election, this group of women is working to recruit new chapters and membership, encouraging women to run, developing programming, training, and workshops. They're lobbying, they're fundraising, and they're mobilizing women to action. Our engagement with candidates doesn't just end once a woman has been elected. We continue to develop our working relationship with them once they're serving on the school board, as a mayor, as a county commissioner, state representative, or a senator, or even as they decide to pursue higher office, especially when they decide to pursue higher office. The Ohio Democratic Party is able to channel this leadership and our grassroots efforts as an example for other caucuses and groups.
This slide gives us an overview of our leadership structure. We have 8 amazing leaders from around Ohio that serve on our executive team. Each vice chair has a specific role and goals. And we've also divided Ohio into 7 different regions with regional leaders who are our eyes and ears in their respective regions and serve as liaisons for the ODWC. Currently, there are active chapters in 44 of Ohio's 88 counties, and our chair, Kathy DeCristofaro, has daily contact with almost every caucus member. As we said before, the work of the ODWC is sustained over time, which is why the members of our caucus are trusted memberships in their communities and are seen as validators who respond to gaps in infrastructure and information. And we get things done. The reason that we've been so successful is that there was a need for the ODWC to exist, and we continue the work because it matters all over our state. We've seen the impact we've been able to have. We've elected new leaders, and in some places, just moving the needle little bit by little bit, year after year, and ultimately empowering and encouraging women to get involved in politics makes a huge difference in their communities. We need to just win and turn out the vote in every county by a little bit in order to make Ohio blue.
This slide's a lot about building our brand, and over the course of the last several years, we've become a recognizable brand. We have strong programs both locally, regionally, and statewide, and we also have an active social media presence both on Facebook and Twitter. We're communicating regularly with our network via our WOW, Women Organizing Women, newsletters, and through traveling throughout the state, engaging with our local county caucus leaders.
In many of our programs, some of the most successful have been our women's health panels, women-to-women nights of actions, annual luncheon, annual convention, and Women's Lobby Day. These programs have only helped us enhance our already recognizable brand. And great programs only encourage our growth to better programs, more workshops, more training and development, more active women.
As we've mentioned, training is a core component of our operation. Through training, we've been able to communicate so much more our strong democratic message. We've been able to convene women across the state both socially but also in real and actionable ways. We empower women with the skills and the tools that they need to grow, and often a little extra information, support, and confidence is what some of them might need in order to run. Of course, we also need to raise money in order to sustain our operation. Every election, fundraising is of course a new nut to crack. However, since our activities are happening all year round, our leadership really does lead by example and has taken initiative and done call time to encourage other women across Ohio to support ODWC and help our program grow. Of course, as Janet mentioned, we have a few signature events annually, our convention, our luncheon, Women's Lobby Day, and also reoccurring days of action called Women's Wednesdays. They enhance our visibility in local communities, but also help us support the continued programming both regionally and locally. And as we mentioned earlier, great programming and great programs attract better programs and encourage active donors.
As you can see from this slide, in 2012, ODWC had an incredibly active year. We did 13 women's health panels around Ohio. We trained 100 grassroots leaders at Women Volunteers in Action. We had over 60 participants in our second annual Women's Lobby Day, recruited over 2,700 subscribers to our weekly WOW newsletter, had 150 attendees at committee hearings on legislation directly affecting women. ODWC coordinated 2 pro-choice phone jams that were extremely successful and sent 302,000 emails to Governor Kasich and his Republican legislators. 1,322 Women Wednesday volunteer shifts were completed. 10,000 plus postcards were sent to low turnout women voters. In 2014, we are already setting our sights higher, our standards higher, and we will achieve them.
I now want to take a moment just to turn it over to our executive director, or turn it back to our executive director, Liz Walters, to talk a little bit more about the 2013 municipal elections and a few case studies specific to that race.
Great, thanks Jenna. And just to kind of give Janet a little further shout out, she's being very modest about the success of our phone jams. We actually shut down the phone lines at the State House on 2 occasions around some anti-women legislation with the help of our activists. So it was a really proud, sad thing we had to do it, but a proud moment to be able to accomplish that. I got quite a bit of buzz too. So here on your, you see some photos of some of the awesome women that we either elected or re-elected to office in 2013. In 2013, the ODP had one of its most successful municipal years in the last decade. And a big part of that is because women are over 50% of our voters and over 60% of our activists. And year in and year out, whether it's a presidential year or a gubernatorial year or a municipal year, they're really leading the way. So on the far left, you see a picture of the newly minted mayor of Dayton, Nan Whaley. Nan is a phenomenal candidate who has come up kind of through the operative side to as a staffer on Senate races. She went on to run for city commissioner after serving as the chief of staff for the Senate Bill 5 campaign, and she actually served as the early vote director at the Ohio Democratic Party for Sherrod Brown's reelection campaign as well. We were very excited to get behind Nan really early. She was one of the first ever mayors endorsed by Emily's List. They got involved in municipal elections last year for the first time. And the other really proud piece about Nan's race was that her campaign was all volunteer driven, run largely by young women in her community, and they knocked on over 50,000 doors from pre-primary until election day. And she beat her primary opponents in a three-way race by 12 points and won her general election against an independent by 8 points. So Nan, we expect great things from her in the future. She's definitely one of our rising stars, but we were really excited to see how she was embraced by women activists and just the Democratic community. Next is Yvette Simpson, who is on Cincinnati City Council. Yvette has held many leadership positions through her community and is currently the speaker or the president pro tem of Cincinnati City Council. We're always very excited to support young women into these emerging roles. She was elected to her second term, and the Young Democrats in Cincinnati in particular, as well as some of the other strong groups in there, were really supportive of Yvette and helping organize for the endorsed council ticket. And then finally, and definitely not last but not least at all, is Marcia Phelps, who is elected as the Licking County Clerk of Courts. Licking County is led by an amazing female chair, Grace Sherrington, who we're very proud to count among our leadership. And with her leadership and the hard work of Marcia Phelps, they elected her to win 53% of the vote. And they definitely attribute her campaign to the strong grassroots campaign they run with the help of a lot of women in Licking County. So we're very, very proud of all of these women and all of our activists for supporting them. You know, one of the things that I think is probably one of the most lasting impacts that we'll see from the Women's Caucus in Ohio in future years is that we've really created a culture of supporting women candidates and elected officials. From Nan to Yvette to former Congresswoman Betty Sutton, they willingly come to our trainings, they participate in our events because they want to be supportive. They will come, to a training in a rural part of Ohio to talk to other women about running for office. They will gladly mentor other young elected officials if they're asked. So we're really grateful for the kind of culture that this has created around supporting women candidates. And also, I can say as the new executive director, as supporting women staffers too. They've been great advocates for adding more women to the team here at ODP.
Okay, for a recap, you can see from the slide that the reason the Ohio Democratic Women's Caucus is so critical to the success of Democrats is because we have committed leadership, quality training, fundraising as a core component. We elect great candidates and we keep in touch with them. We have great experts programming, thank you, Grace, and we're growing because of effectively getting the word out. You can see the slides here are from our We Won't Go Back rally, which was a tremendous success and organized a great deal by our ODWC chair, Kathy DeCristofaro. So we have fun doing what we do, and we're effective, and we help elect Democrats across the state. So any questions?
Great. And just, I think, two final points. This is Liz again. The one, I think, overarching theme to drive home is that a big part of our success was due, 90% of our success, I would say, is due in large part to the sustained and patient leadership of Janet and Kathy and Grace and Carol and Lana and all the women who've been engaged in this process from start to finish. They really were patient. It took us about 10 years to get to this point, and we only envision that it will improve and better and stronger from here. So we just can't express enough our gratitude to them. And then also just our, really our desire and our passion for working with any type of women's group in the state. It's kind of come one, come all. We don't want to replace the Federated Women. We're not going to replace Planned Parenthood. We want to bring everyone in and act as kind of the centralized hub to bring women together to fight for common issues. in the state of Ohio. So with that, I think, Amy, I don't know if you can moderate questions because I don't think I can from my screen.
Yep. I'm here, and we already have a couple of questions. So from Sarah Gold-Kagan, we have President Obama carried Ohio in 2012. What percentage do you know of the vote came from women, if you know that?
The total vote share, I can't speak to in terms of numbers, a breakdown of the vote. I don't have that in front of me, but I will say I know for certain that the gender gap in Ohio was even bigger last year than it was in 2008. It was 18 points. So President Obama won women by 18 points in Ohio in 2012. And then, you know, from a current perspective in the state party and from our statewide elections coming this year, we have 3 women on our statewide ticket, and that is only continuing to grow. Actually, as we've been on this call, unfortunately, we found out the Ohio GOP just reintroduced the heartbeat bill. So they continue to deliver us opportunities to mobilize women around the state on these issues. So we anticipate that this will only grow in the next year, and we are going to focus heavily on organizing women and talking to drop-off women voters over the next year as a key piece of our campaign.
Great. Again, everyone, if you have a question, please enter them into the questions box on your GoToMeeting module. We have one from Natalie Fanico Gonzalez, and it's, do you have a special outreach tactic to target elderly women?
That's a great question. As far as elderly women, I don't think that we have a special tactic. We're constantly trying to be innovative on the ways that we do talk to our women voters. As I mentioned before, there's Women's Wednesdays. By design, the objective is to reach out to women contacts, so women writing postcards, women using social media, women really, again, talking to other women in a way that's real and tangible. And I would say we don't want to leave any community out. So I know that, you know, it's a broad base. I mean, it's not just a certain demographic of women.
And I think, you know, from a tactics perspective, that's kind of our new ground that we're breaking into this year, is really digging deep on some research of who are our targets for, like, especially from a voter perspective, and how do we reach them. And some of our early research is indicating that, you know, and this is probably not surprising to anybody, but older women, and, you know, we love you ladies, this is not an age statement, like 45 and over tend to be better reached from a voter communication standpoint through the mail, and that women 45 and under tend to consume most of their information online, which is another reason why Jenna focuses a lot of her time on expanding our Facebook following, our Twitter following. I think she's growing our following at a net gain of 100 per week in those mediums, which is going to be really critical for us moving forward. And then our postcard program, which has been a staple of what the activism has looked like, will continue to be a big part of what we do this year, but on a more sustained, consistent basis.
Great. Okay, so we have a question from Linda Marion, which is, what is our next step after this webinar, and what guidance can you give us to move forward? And so I'm going to let Kate answer that question.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much. It's a good question. So the purpose of our first webinar is really to introduce everybody to the Democratic Women's Alliance and highlight one of our state parties and the great work that they're doing. Following this webinar, everybody will receive a survey who registered, and we really encourage you to fill that survey out, because that's going to be able to guide us as to the next month's webinars and what we should be focusing on in the months leading up to the midterm election. So if we get an overwhelming amount of feedback on one topic, we're going to pull in staff from all over the DMP to help us build the webinar trainings for that.
There's one more question about the ODWs from Nancy Jacobson asking, do you permit male members to join?
Sure, we love men and men who love us, right? So like we take all supporters, and actually our logo that you currently see was designed by one of our male volunteers who really wanted to be helpful, and is on the first slide. I'll come back. Anyway, you all saw it. It's the little, oh yeah, you see the little donkey. We have one that has eyelashes on it too, just for a little cute touch. And he helped design all that stuff. So we have plenty of male volunteers. Actually, Janet's husband, Janet, who's on the phone with us, Terry, is probably one of our most active members. Whether by choice or not, I'll let Janet answer that question, but he's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, actually, he does.
Go ahead, Janet.
Oh, it's okay. I just was going to say that we do have a lot of men that participate and are very supportive. They especially are very helpful with our website and our technical issues, and helping us do things at home so that we can be out and roam around the state. One of the things that I'm doing is I go to all parts of the state. All the officers do. So we sometimes need to have somebody drive us so that we can work in the car, and it's very helpful to have men participate. We have a lot of young men who are participating as well.
And of course our fearless chairman, Chris Redfern, who, God bless him, he loves it. So we keep him on his toes.
Okay, so we have one last question. This is going to be the last question from Sandra Stein. It's, can you describe more about the Women's Wednesdays, what you do, who participates, and where it happens, etc.?
Sure. So, Women's Wednesdays is kind of a general term that we've used for a lot of different nights of action. So to give you a concrete example of what it looked like in 2012 on Senator Brown's re-election campaign, the Women's Caucus, obviously, one of the great things about them is that they try to fold seamlessly into any field program we build with their branding to lend their kind of validation to what we're doing and help be facilitators. So in 2012, Wednesday nights would be Women's Nights of Action, and our organizers out in the field offices would would specifically target women volunteers in their recruitment to come in and call other women. So we would build lists of either low turnout women or light persuadable women for volunteers to speak with, and the messaging would usually be around what was at stake for women in the election, if there was any hot button issues that particularly tied to them, which let's be honest, all issues are women's issues, so there's always a kind of a hook there. But they would come in and we would recruit a great surrogate to get on a conference call statewide to talk to the women beforehand and answer questions. So, in one instance it was Betty Sutton who got on the call statewide to thank women for their activism, to talk about the importance of women's involvement and what was at stake for them. In one instance we had the statewide Supreme Court candidate, Yvette Mickey Brown, get on to speak to everybody about her race. At one point, I believe we had a national surrogate. We had Cecile Richards from Planned Parenthood jump on the call to say hi to our activists. And so after the conference call and everybody gets a little hurrah and like a pump up, they go and jump on the phones for an hour or two to talk to voters, and then they usually ended the evening with a little bit of a social hour in the field office. So the answer to your question about where is kind of anywhere we had activity happening, which in a state like Ohio in 2012 was pretty much on every street corner, it felt like, because we had the Obama campaign and participated at such big levels, plus the Senate race. But we also are very mobile, so that if we have women in a rural county that want to participate, we try to give them the tools to do so by sending cell phones out and scripts out. It can kind of take any level of action. So that's an example of a Women's Wednesday, but every year they kind of take a little bit of a different shape, and in different times of the year they have different ends. So we'll probably start in the spring with doing more of an action meeting that's more of a training and then a taking action versus a traditional GOTV field operation.
Spring into action.
A spring into action, if you will, Women's Wednesday.
Great, and we have, I'm so sorry, go ahead.
I just would like to say that we do a lot of things besides just postcards and phone gangbangs and phone calls. Depends on the part of the county or the part of the state that you're in. In my area, we have a lot of professional women that wanted to be involved, and they didn't want to make phone calls or do postcards. So they would do other activities that were networking in their business groups and on a more professional level. So we tailor the Women's Wednesdays and the activities to the group that that's going to be participating. So we have all different kinds of levels and all different types of participation, which is part of what's made the caucus so successful and able to be sustained for over 10 years.
That's great. So we have one comment from Francie Pepper saying, wanting the Ohio Women's Caucus to mention that it is the Ohio Attorney General who is leading the fight against women at the Supreme Court, as well as signing on to all the other states that are against contraceptives. So there's a lot of fight to be had with you guys.
Yep, that's right. And actually, the Republican Attorney General that's currently in office is one of the lead plaintiffs in the Hobby Lobby case. We, for the life of us, cannot figure out why he thinks the AG of Ohio has any business commenting on women's health decisions. So we're very excited to have David Pepper running for AG, and he's going to be a great advocate for women when he's elected in November of 2014.
Great. Well, again, I really want to thank the Ohio Democratic Party Women's Caucus, as well as our DWA partners, all of the groups here on the webinar today, our chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and her deputy director, Kate Houghton, for joining us today on this webinar for the Train to Win series. It's been a really great webinar, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it and learned something. Make sure that you guys are going to fill out the survey that we send out this afternoon, and please do engage with us on Twitter. Follow the DNC Women account. It's at DNC Women, as well as the ASDC account at DemChairs, to engage with us on Twitter and hear about things as they're happening real time. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.